Hey, Bastish B for 64K and welcome to the second episode of Retro Remakes. And what's this show about? Basically, I take a look at classic games, retro remakes of classic games, whether they're official or unofficial. And our second game for this series is a remake of Sonic the Hedgehog on the Commodore 64. This is based on the Sega Master System version. So before we check this one out, let's go back to that original. The original Sonic the Hedgehog game was released in 1991 by Sega on the Mega Drive and Genesis, and was a massive hit on the 16-bit system, injecting speed and tight quality platforming to the forefront. It was the first game that I ever played on my Mega Drive, but Sega was still supporting their 8-bit console, the Master System, and with their upcoming Game Gear, which was about to be released, they decided to make an 8-bit version of Sonic that could work for both those consoles. Enter Yuzo Koshiro, a Japanese composer who had scored countless brilliant Mega Drive scores, such as Revenge of Shinobi and Streets of Rage. He ended up setting up a small studio called Ancient, and they were hired to produce the 8-bit versions. The game's story was similar to its big 16-bit brother, with Robotnik up to his usual shenanigans by imprisoning animals and making them into mechs as part of his army. And you, as Sonic, were here to stop him and rescue all the critters. A lot of the levels are represented, but with just completely different stage designs and being much smaller in scale to the 16-bit version, but built to take advantage of what 8-bit could do. Core gameplay elements like finding all the Chaos Emeralds in the game being the only way to see the epic good ending, and by collecting over 50 rings by a level's end sends you into a bonus stage, this one throwing Sonic into a pinball-style machine, similar to 1993's Sonic Spinball, which was released on the Mega Drive and Genesis. It was an impressive achievement, and even though it wasn't as speedy, they made up for that with a lot more platforming and clever exploration needed for each level. Koshiro also stepped in to do the Master System and Game Gear soundtracks, taking a couple of the iconic 16-bit tunes and making the rest of the soundtrack from scratch by himself. Both versions were really well received by critics and financially did well, although not in the same league as its 16-bit counterpart. Computer and Video Game magazine in their December 1991 issue said, "This is what Master System fans the world over have been waiting for, and what a debut this is for everyone's favorite Sega superstar. Sonic pelts around the smooth scrolling screen at a fair lick, and there's loads to explore throughout this feast of gorgeous sprites, beautifully detailed and colorful backdrops." Overall though, it's a much shorter, more condensed game, with the levels working in its favor, playing to the slower pace of the 8-bit systems, and using that to make exploration a more key factor in gameplay, as well as some great graphics and excellent tunes. It's a Sonic game that's just as relevant as the big 16-bit original. And now that you know a little bit about the Master System history version, let's check out the Commodore 64 one. Sonic the Hedgehog was released in 2021 on the Commodore 64, a full 30 years after its original debut. This is of course an unofficial version, although I think Yuzo Koshiro and original creator Yuji Naka would be impressed at what's been accomplished here. This remake of the 8-bit Master System version was done by Mr. Sid, the C64 master coder, behind the excellent Prince of Persia and Donkey Kong Jr. ports to the C64 over the last decade. Please check out my videos on both of these for more details. So all the gameplay and story elements are intact and the same, so let's look on over at the graphics and sound. The look of this game is just plain gorgeous for a C64 game, really capturing the feel of the Master System version, but still looking like a C64 game in the end. I really like the color choices used in Sonic. The various shades of blue make him look really detailed, and the backdrops are replicated extremely well with a massive amount of variety from level to level. It features all 6 Master System levels, with the Green Hill Zone, Bridge Zone, Jungle Zone, Labyrinth Zone, Scrap Brain Zone, and lastly Skybase Zone, plus the excellent pinball-style bonus stage. The SID music tracks by Mikhail Hastrup are great versions of the originals, and again managed to still sound and feel like C64 tracks, which I really love. Like the Master System version, it's a bit slower than the 16-bit one, focusing more on tricky level design and light exploration to compensate, and it still works really well despite a bit of slowdown here and there, which the Master System version also has. It still runs really well, and the scrolling is extremely smooth. Just due to the stages being a bit smaller, the game is easier to complete than the 16-bit Big Brother, although that damn underwater stage still overstays its welcome, but you could say that about almost any video game.
I'm looking at you, Tomb Raider. I love this. I still can't believe I'm playing Sonic on the C64. It literally combines my two favorite things in gaming, the Commodore 64 and Sega, into one glorious package. It's so well made, and despite being able to complete it fairly quickly, you still got the task of doing it while collecting all the Chaos Emeralds for the proper ending, which is a pretty tough but doable task. This team has given us another classic right up there with the Super Mario Commodore 64 conversion. And if you want to play this on the original C64 hardware, you are going to need an REU or RAM expansion unit, as the game needs that to run, or an Ultimate 2 cartridge will do the trick. It's also playable through VAS once you set the RAM expansion option, or on a C64 Mini and Maxi as long as you use a D81 file. I'll leave a link to the download in the description, which has the D64 and D81 downloads for whatever you need.
And thanks for joining me for the second episode of Retro Remakes. If you want to see the first one, it's over here. It's about Rescue on Fractalus, the PC remake. Definitely check that one out if you like that old game. Thanks for joining me, Bastish B at 64K. I hope you had a good time. And if you can please like and subscribe, that'll be greatly appreciated. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.